State, are you ready to call your first witness?
State will call Jacqueline Komrek. I'm sorry, no,
Can you spell her last name for me?
I believe it's Komprek.
Thank you. Good morning, ma'am. If you'll step to the podium where the microphone is for me. Stop right there. Raise your right hand. My clerk's going to swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right. Ma'am, if you follow my bailiff, have a seat in the witness stand and speak in a loud and clear voice, which you sound like you're a low talker. So we're going to have to get that microphone up close, okay?
Okay.
All right. You pull the chair on up, it moves. And then bring the microphone down towards, make sure we hear it. Yeah, it's down. Great. State, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Defense, can you please turn and introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Jacqueline Komrek.
And can you spell your last name for the court reporter?
It's spelled Komrek.
Okay. And I apologize, Judge, that means I spelled it wrong.
That's okay. I got it.
And Ms. Komrek, what do you do for a living?
I'm a letter carrier.
For the United States Postal Service?
Yes.
How long have you been doing that?
27 years.
Always here in Pasco County?
20 years. 7 years in New York State.
Okay. So 20 years in Pasco County?
Yes.
Has your letter route, have you always had the letter route that includes Richboro Drive and Astral Lane?
Yes.
So you've been delivering mail to those addresses on those streets for approximately 20 years?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the address 3519 Richboro Drive?
Yes, I am.
Is that in Pasco County?
Yes.
Now, I want to turn your attention to January 23rd, 2018. Now, do you recall that day?
I do.
Okay. And actually, I'd like to show you State's Exhibit 1 for identification. But may I approach the witness?
You may.
Previously shown this to the defense. Do you recognize this?
I do.
And what would this be?
It's the intersection of Richboro and Astral.
An overhead view?
Yes.
Does it appear to fairly and accurately depict those roads?
Accurately.
Judge, the state would like to move State's Exhibit 1 for identification and evidence.
Defense, any objection?
No.
All right, stage 1 will be admitted into evidence. And again, ladies and gentlemen, it will go back with you into the jury room. Go ahead, State.
Ms. Komrek, would it aid you to describe to the jury where you were and where you were moving by using the aerial view? Judge, may the witness step down?
She may, but she has to keep her voice up. So, all right, you may step down. Use your outside voice here.
Okay.
Information published, Judge?
You may.
And there's a lot of people on the jury, so if you can show us, what road is Richboro Drive?
This road right here is Richboro.
Okay. And that address I see about 43519, would that be this one with the second story on it?
Right here.
What is this road over here?
That's Moon Road.
Okay, and where's Astral on this map?
Astral is this road right here.
Okay, now about 12:19 in the afternoon, where were you? Where were you delivering mail?
I had just come off Rockaway, and I had turned onto Astral, and I had just completed delivery right in and around here.
And where normally, if nothing unusual had happened, how would your route have continued?
Normally, we do a very wide U-turn, which would have come right directly here to come right back to deliver to this home right here on the corner.
And did the other side of Astral?
Yes.
All right, now while you were in this area delivering mail, did you notice anything of concern happening at 3519 Richboro Drive?
Actually, I did. There was some sense of urgency with a gentleman at this address, which brought my attention up. As in just general view, what proceeded right directly in front of me, because it was right out my windshield, I witnessed Mr. Tudor come out the front door, followed by Mr. Qiu. Mr. Tudor ran on the front lawn a few steps, where then he turned around and faced the man who came out after him, who was Mr. Qiu. It was obvious. Mr. Tudor was holding his elbow. He was pleading, begging, and as I watched it unfold in front of me, actually almost in slow motion, you could see that Mr. Qiu was holding that gun.
And did you see Mr. Qiu shoot Mr. Tudor?
I heard the pop pop.
Okay. Now, during this time, are you also trying to divert from your route?
Actually, yes.
Now, ultimately, I'm going to come back to what you saw, but you did divert your route, and can you show the jury what route you then took and where you parked for a time?
I just made a three-point turn and actually was directly in front of 3024.
Okay. And then did you move from that area?
After, I did. I had made a phone call to the post office here saying there was gun activity. But I had gotten my supervisor's voicemail. When I made the three-point turn, they returned the phone call. So we don't have a rear view mirror, we just have side mirrors. I could see still. I then proceeded to deviate and come down the road, which is right here. I just went around and I sat right here until I heard the police sirens come.
Is this Ridge Road right on the side?
Actually, it is.
Okay.
It crosses over,
You
yes.
can resume your seat. Now, you referred to Mr. Tudor. Was he someone that you're familiar with or delivering mail on that route for so long?
Upon occasion, he would be outside as I was delivering or handing him a package,
So you could recognize when you saw him?
of course.
And how about Mr. Qiu? Was he someone you could recognize when you saw him?
Of course,
Do you see him in the courtroom here?
they do.
Please point him out and identify something that he's wearing.
Mr. Qiu is the gentleman right there wearing the blue suit.
Okay. On the far, for you to be the far left.
Yes.
And Judge, may the record reflect witnesses indicated the defendant.
It will so reflect.
Now, Ms. Komrek, I'm showing you State's Exhibit 2 for identification, which I previously shown to the defense counsel. Have you seen this before?
Yes, I have.
And have you had an opportunity to review what's on this CD?
Yes, I have.
And did it depict the event that you described for this jury?
Yes, it does.
Did it appear to accurately and fairly depict that event?
Yes.
And could you see your own movements, depending on the camera angle that was being viewed, could you see your own movements in your mail truck that you described to the jury?
Yes.
Judge, at this time, the state would like to move State's Exhibit 2 for identification into evidence.
That's any objection?
And vote, please.
You want to approach? Okay, approach. All right, States 2 will be admitted.
Judge, permission to publish?
You may. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this will go back to you in the jury room, and we will have something for you to review it again, so you don't have to memorize it all. It'll be back in the jury room with the player so that you can review it in any amount of time you think necessary.
Judge, I'm going to partially publish it. The clip is longer than what I'm going to publish. I'm going to publish it from approximately 12:18.
You need the witness to step down?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
Judge, can we dim the lights?
Deputy Attorney General? That should be good enough. State, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. I'm sorry, Ms. Komrek, can you see the individual in the red shirt that's entered the video? If you could just step down and tell us, is that Mr. Key, the defendant who you previously identified?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You can resume your seat. Ms. Komrek, if you could step down. And to draw your attention to this area here, will you let us know if you see your mail truck come around, point out where your mail truck ends up ultimately parking for time?
There I am. And then I stopped. Right there.
And you review surveillance video and put immediately call them and you can tell that your vehicle is there with license for a period of time.
Yes.
I want to show you a different angle. Like that. Camera 4. About 19. And is this road here Astral?
That road is Astro.
And this road is Richboro?
Richboro.
Would you let me know when you see your vehicle on this particular view?
There I am. I'm just turning. I had just turned on to Astro.
And at this point, you delivering now?
I'm delivering mail.
Now you're turning around early?
I'm doing a 3-point turn. I didn't even go to this gentleman's house.
While you're doing that, is that because you can see something going on in front of your door?
Yes.
You can use the receipt. I have no further questions.
All right. Do you want to go ahead and move the video?
Can you use this phone here?
Superior, you're going to need that? Right, cross.
No questions.
Right, ma'am, you are all done. Thank you very much. Is she released from her subpoena?
Subject to recall, but
Okay, you're released to go, but you're still on recall. Okay, thank you, ma'am. State call your next witness.
State will call Detective Dave Murphy.
Good morning, detective. You can come to the podium so I can swear you in. Yes, sir. Stop right there, raise your right hand, be sworn by my clerk.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, sir, please have a seat in the witness stand, speak in a loud and clear voice. State your name and fix your microphone. All right, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Vince, can you please turn and introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, my name is Detective Murphy. I work for the Pasco Sheriff's Office. Currently, I'm with the Strategic Investigative Unit for the Pasco Sheriff's Office.
And Detective Murphy, how long have you been with the Sheriff's Office?
6.5 years, almost 7 years.
Now, were you working in your capacity as a Sheriff's Office detective back on January 23rd of 2018?
Yes, I was.
Now, when you were on duty in the neighborhood of 12:15, 12:30, how were you dressed?
I was dressed in plain clothes. I had a pair of gray pants on and a black t-shirt on.
Is that normal for you to dress in plain clothes as
Yes.
opposed to the uniformed deputies such as the ones we see in the courtroom?
Yes, it is, due to the nature of my job description.
Okay. Now, did there come a point at around 12:20, maybe a little after 12:20 in the afternoon, where you became aware of a call?
Yes.
And how do you become aware of that?
I responded to burglary of a business on 19 and Luke to assist patrol deputies that were there investigating that burglary. While on scene, a call came over the radio of the shooting of a person.
Okay. Now, when you get a call out like that, do you have all the details?
No, we do not.
Do you know everything that's going on at the location that you're responding to?
No, we do not.
And the nature of this call, is this the type of call that you have to respond to a little bit differently for your safety and for the safety of people around you?
Absolutely.
So did you end up responding to the location for this call?
I did.
And was that the intersection of Richborough Drive and Astral Drive?
Correct.
So when you get on scene, what do you do in order to make sure everybody around you knows you're a law enforcement officer?
So as soon as the call came out, prior to even leaving the area, I immediately threw on my vest. That's right here. This is my ballistic vest that I wear because I'm in plain clothes. I have that on. I also have my badge that I pull the string out and I wrap it around, and it's right here in front of me. I have my sidearm, and then I did all that prior to me jumping back into my vehicle and heading to the scene. I didn't want to have to do that while on scene. I didn't know what I was going to.
Yeah, and particularly a call like this, is it very important that everybody can identify you as a deputy or a detective with the sheriff's office?
Absolutely, because even other deputies may not know who I am due to the way I'm dressed, so I want to make sure they understand that I'm also a deputy.
Okay, and to be clear for the record, I asked you to bring in your vest, and it is a black vest with large yellow letters that say sheriff on it.
Yes, that's the back.
And that would be back, and the front also has letters that say sheriff on it. Okay. Now, based on the capacity in which you work, are you equipped with a body-worn camera?
I am not.
All right. Now, when you arrive, can you tell the jury where do you park?
Usually in a situation like that, again, because it's of the unknown, we park about a block or two away. We want to get the entire picture in front of us, and we tactfully go to the incident scene where they're walking out.
Now, Detective, would it aid you if you had an overhead view of this area to describe to the jury where you were and what you did?
Yes.
Would you have been able to step down?
You may, as long as he keeps his voice up.
I'm holding up this argument introduced at State's Exhibit 1, credit to be sent back. Just a little bit of physics. Edward, does this appear to be an accurate reflection of the intersection of Rick Road Drive and Astral?
Yes.
Now, when you arrived on scene, can you describe to the jury where do you go?
We came in on this street here. So we turned north on this street, and I parked here at the corner.
Okay, you say we. Were there other deputies responding at the same time?
There was a Deputy Croft that responded with me at the time. Another deputy that was at the scene during the burglary.
Okay. And how do you then approach this situation?
So we both parked here at the corner, and Deputy Croft went on this side of the road. I stayed on this side of the road, and then we approached both in that direction, headed towards the incident scene.
So once you get to the incident scene, what is your primary focus at that point?
At that point, again, not knowing the circumstances, we're just trying to figure out what went down, who's involved, and see if there's anyone that we can see to assess the situation.
Are you trying to make sure that there's not an active threat?
Absolutely.
And if there is an active threat, make sure it's neutralized, or you continue to do
Yes,
whatever it is that needs to be done?
Yes, sir.
All right, so as you approach the incident location here, what is occurring? What do you see, and what do you take note of?
As I'm getting closer, I'm hearing screaming. I'm hearing what appears to be a female's voice. As I get closer, I see a black female standing in front of here, and she's screaming that her friend's been shot. She's hysterical. We still don't know what's going on, so we're kind of asking her, where's your friend? What's going on? Where's the shooter? We're asking her a bunch of questions. I see a body laying in the front yard here. She's screaming, please help my friend, please help my friend. So at that point, my main objective is, if we don't know where the shooter's at, we don't know what's going on, get her out of harm's way immediately.
Okay, so what do you do?
So I immediately started giving her directions to come to me, to walk away from the house, to walk away from her friend and come to me. The other deputy on scene kind of was looking to see if he could render aid. So eventually she listened to me and she started walking towards me. As she walked towards me, I had her go this way and hide in between the houses. I directed her to lay on the ground and not to move until we were able to figure out what was going on here.
Okay. During that period of time, our Corporal Long and Deputy Croft,
they arrived. Corporal Long eventually arrives and he parks here. He walks up, Deputy Croft are here. She goes to where I directed her to go, and I take a position of here. I put myself in between the incident location and her just to make sure that she stays safe. At that time, Deputy Croft and Corporal Long decided to go and secure that house to make sure that there was no more active shooters, there was no more victims. So they began through the back, and they went towards the back.
now, and you say they just secure. When you get on scene, you know how many people might have been in this house?
We do not know.
How many shooters there may be, or what the story is?
Unknown, completely unknown.
Okay, so while you're staying in the front yard of this residence, can you describe to the jury what occurs?
As I'm standing in the front yard, I keep looking back at her. I'm standing here watching the front of this house and also trying to keep an eye on her. And I catch movement kind of behind me and to the right of my corner. At that time, I hear a voice say, I'm the one who shot. And so I turn towards and I see the suspect standing in front of his door, and I immediately engage him. I raise my gun and I start giving him directions.
Okay. And you can resume your seat. Now, the person who came out of the house, hands up saying, I'm the one who shot, you see in the courtroom here today.
Yes, I do.
Please point him out, identify something he's wearing.
He's sitting right there. He's wearing a black suit and glasses.
Judge, may the record reflect the witnesses indicated the defendant?
Will so reflect.
some items as we continue. Now, the person that came out of the house. Judge, may I approach witness what's the marked as State's Exhibit 3 for identification?
You may.
Do you recognize State's Exhibit 3 for identification?
Yes, I do.
Is that the suspect wearing the same clothes he was wearing when he exited the residence?
Yes, he was.
And is it a fair and accurate depiction?
Yes, sir.
Judge, at this time, the state would like to move State's Exhibit 3 into evidence.
Any objection?
No.
State 3 will be in.
Permission to briefly publish, Judge?
You may.
So now that he's come out and you're now dealing with him, he says, I'm the one that shot him. Can you describe for the jury how you then proceed with the defendant?
I immediately raise my gun. I don't know if he still has a weapon on him. I engage him. I tell him to get on the ground, don't move. I immediately get on the radio. I advise dispatch that I'm at gunpoint with the suspect. The suspect lays on the ground. I get back on the radio to let them know he's on the ground. At this time, Deputy Croft and Corporal Long run around. They hear me on the radio. They run to the front of the house and they see that I have him at gunpoint laying on the ground. I never approached him because, again, I was by myself. I don't know what he has. I don't know if he has other weapons on him. So I make sure that I can see his hands at all times. Deputy Croft immediately goes to the goes to the suspect and places him in handcuffs. At that time, we weren't sure if there was other shooters in the house or what was going on in the house that he came out of. So at that time, they decided to go into his house to clear the house while I remained with the suspect. At that time, I began to check him, and I pulled out 2 fully loaded magazines out of a black waistband that he had underneath his shirt. I placed them on his side. I kept them there till the deputies came back out of the home. I lifted him up and walked him over to the patrol vehicle that had just pulled up.
Okay, a couple questions about that. Now, when he comes out of that residence, when the defendant comes out of that residence, do you know if he lives there?
I have no idea.
Do you have any idea what his association might be with the residence at that point?
I do not.
Okay. Because this is a situation that is fast developing for you?
Absolutely.
And Judge, I'd like to approach the detective with State's Exhibit 4 and 5, which have previously been shown to the defense counsel.
You may.
If you've taken a look at State's Exhibits 4 and 5, you recognize those?
Yes, I do.
And what are those depict?
This is the front door of the home that he came out of. He was standing on the stoop, and then this is where I placed 2 fully loaded magazines. His body would have been in the middle, so I placed one to his left and one to his right.
Okay, are they fair and accurate depictions?
Yes.
Judge, at this time, State would like to move State's Exhibit 4 and 5 into evidence.
Any objection?
No.
4 and 5 will come in as evidence.
And Judge, may the witness step down?
You may.
Okay, you showed the jury what you're describing, where the front door is, and here back a little bit so we made sure everybody can see.
The front door is here as he stepped out and said, I'm the one who shot him, and I gave him directions. I had him lay down right here. As I patted him down, I pulled out 2 fully loaded magazines. I placed one to his right, one to his left, and this is where his body would have been laying.
Okay, and the yellow A and B, were they conveniently there when you got there, or were those placed there?
No, those were placed there by forensics when they arrived.
Okay. Because once you remove those and you've removed him from that space, you leave the magazines there for forensics?
I don't touch him again.
Okay. Thank you. You can resume your seat. Now, as you patted him down, did he have any weapons on him?
He did not.
Did he make any comments about weapons?
I asked him where the gun was. He motioned with his head toward the house, but he never mentioned where the gun was to me.
Judge, I'm showing defense counsel State's Exhibit 6 for identification. Detective Murphy,
It's just 6 and 7?
just 6.
Okay.
I'm showing State's Exhibit 6 for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
That is the waistband he was wearing.
And to kind of, well, Judge, at this time the state would like to move State's Exhibit 6 into evidence.
Any objection?
No.
6 will be in.
Now, can you give me a pair of gloves, and I want you to show how this thing is used. If you know how it's used.
It's used like a common back brace from what it appeared to be. We had it wrapped around his waist like that, and I called the magazine, one magazine was down here, the other magazine was right here.
Okay. And is this a type of holster that can be utilized to stick a firearm in as well?
Yeah, it could be. I would never use it, I guess.
Yes. Now, once you have him down, determine there's no other people in his residence, no other people in Mr. Tudor's residence, and you moved him to a secure location, what are your responsibilities at that point?
So once we secured him in the patrol vehicle, we cleared the other home, the victim's home. At that point, I waited on scene near where we placed the suspects, and I waited for Major Crimes to arrive.
Right. And major crimes, they'd be the detectives who would be ultimately doing the larger investigation?
Correct.
Because your role in this is not to fully investigate crime. Your role is to just respond and
Correct.
be the initial person to determine what was going on. Now, that address, 3519 Ridgeboro Drive, is that in Pasco County?
Yes, it is.
Now, I want to show you what's argument entered in evidence. It states 2. And you recognize this.
Yes, I do.
And have you previously put your initials and the date on this item?
Yes, do it.
Do you have an opportunity to review it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And does this item depict a surveillance video angle of largely what you described for the jury?
Yes, it does.
And does it appear to accurately depict when you arrive, when you get into the yard, when you come into contact with the defendant?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And Judge, at this time, I'd like to publish a different portion of this video.
Okay?
And I'm going to detect work and ask you to step down just so you can describe to the jury which person you are.
You published the first part was at 12:18. Do you have the time on the second part of your response?
It's actually going to be different clips, Judge.
Okay, do you know what time it starts?
It's approximately 12:27.
Okay.
That's it.
Yes, you may. Before we publish that, can you all approach real quick? Sir, you can stay there. All right, you may proceed.
We'll start with the video from channel 3, or this label channel 3. And start playing it from approximately 12:27. Um, 12:27, 22 seconds approximately. You see a sheriff's office vehicle come into Ridgeboro.
Yes, I do.
Is that Corporal Long's vehicle?
That's Corporal Long's vehicle.
And there's a woman that just came out of the residence there. Is that the woman that you described?
Yes, yes, it was.
Did you later learn her name was Nikita Cox?
Yes, I did.
The individual that we can now see is about 12:28, 16 seconds.
That's Deputy Croft.
Correct. Now, Deputy Croft and Corporal Long, they're both in full uniforms.
They're full uniforms, correct? I'm at a picture that was a glimpse of me calling her to come to me.
Okay.
Because I was standing far, they were up close, I was standing watching the whole perimeter.
All right, now it's about 12:29. By the timestamp, I'm going to switch to a different view. Channel 1, and I'm going to play it from approximately 12:28:30.
To be directing her to go to the side of the house.
And we're about 12:28:55. That's you with Ms. Cox?
Yes, it is. I'm asking her to please go behind the house. There's a privacy fence there, and I'm asking her to lay down and stay there. At this point, Deputy Croft and Corporal Long started to move into the house to try to clear it. So I stayed out just off screen and between her, and that's when he comes out.
And that's 12:29, about 26
And
seconds.
that's him saying, I did it.
That's the defendant who you previously identified?
Correct. This is Deputy Croft coming in on scene. He immediately cuffs him. Corporal Long goes by the door. I'm not sure if there's someone else in there. I'm telling you, they came out of that house. They're going to go in the house and clear it. I'm searching them and pull out the magazine, toss it there. Obviously, I'm on the radio. There's a lot of radio traffic. They want updates. They want to know what's going on. Our statuses.
Because again, as the situation develops, are you gradually getting more
We get
information?
more information. We don't know if there's more shooters. We don't know who's doing what. So we have more officers that are responding at that point, and they're constantly asking us for our stats to make sure that we're okay.
Because at this point in your day, did you have the benefit of having spoken to all the witnesses about all the things that they saw and having reviewed the video surveillance, which showed
We were just
exactly what
learning
happened?
as it was happening. We had no idea.
and rather than watch another 4 or 5 minutes of this, you shortly move Mr. Key to a location in a cruiser or around?
Yeah, once they cleared that house and they realized there was no one else left in there, they walked back over, and at this point, we asked the deputy to pull right up to the scene. And then we pick him up and we walk him over to the children. We also had fire rescue standing by waiting for us to get the okay for them to come in, because we didn't know what we had going on there.
Stops video at 12:33 and 15 seconds. Was that stops that just ran by?
Yeah.
All right, Deputy, resume your seat. Personally involved in clearing one of the residences?
I cleared the eviction residence.
So after the portion of the video that we just watched, you described to the jury how you did that.
So we walked the suspect over to the vehicle, we placed him inside the vehicle. Deputy Grant, who was the vehicle belonged to, I instructed him to stay with him as I went over, and I assisted Deputy Croft and Corporal Law clearing the house. At the victim's house to make sure there was no other victims or shooters in that.
And you say clearing the house. Can you describe to the jury?
So we walked through the house, checking every single room, every closet, every cabinet, everything, to make sure that no one's hiding, no one's laying dead, God forbid, or no victims. So that's how we do. We methodically just go through the house, the garage, check the roof, check everything.
And so at that residence, 3519 Richboro Drive, Mr. Tudor's residence, were there any other persons inside?
Not inside.
And because at that point, Ms. Cox was outside,
Correct.
Mr. Tudor was on the lawn,
Correct.
and Mr. Key was in a patrol vehicle.
Correct.
I don't have any more questions, Judge.
All right, thank you. Cross?
Detective, Mr. Key cooperated with you, didn't he?
He did.
In fact, he followed all your instructions.
Correct.
In fact, you didn't see him until he presented himself to you when emerging from his house, correct?
Correct.
And he emerged in a non-hostile manner with his hands up.
Correct.
In fact, you didn't know he was the shooter until he informed you of that, right?
Correct.
May I redirect?
No good?
All right, detective, you may step down. I assume you're on standby. Can I have your lawyers to the bench? Ladies and gentlemen, we have one more short witness before lunch. Does anybody need a bathroom break? Good? All right, call your next witness. Call your next witness.
State the call, Detective Brian Long.
Long, elegant.
L-O-N-G.
Since we're done this witness, not over, we'll take a break and we'll have lunch. So, kind of what's happening. Good afternoon, Deputy. You want to step to the podium for me? Is it Sergeant?
Corporal.
All right, Corporal. Corporal, raise your right hand, be sworn by my clerk.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, Corporal, please have a seat in the witness stand, please, and loud and clear voice for me. State, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Morning. Afternoon, rather. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Corporal Brian Long. I work for the Hospital Sheriff's Office. I've been employed here for about 6.5 years.
Corporal, can you move your chair up a little bit? Your voice is kind of tailing off there. Thank you, sir. State, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. You said you've been employed with the Sheriff's Office for about 6.5 years?
Correct.
Now, back in January of 2018, what was your job?
I was a corporal on the road.
Same assignment you have today.
Correct.
And were you working around 12:20 in the afternoon?
I was.
And did you receive a phone call that took you to 3519 Richboro Drive?
I did.
And is that in Pasco County?
Yes.
What was the nature of that phone call?
I believe it was a shooting of a person.
And what information did you know when you went to the scene?
On the way to the scene, it was directed to us that we had a subject was down in the front yard and there were shots fired.
So when you arrived on scene, how did you respond?
Respond tactically at first, trying to get as much information from the person that was there.
And who was the person that was there?
I only really knew her as just an adult black female. I never caught her name.
What was her general demeanor when you made contact with her?
She was visibly upset.
Do you recall what she was telling you?
She was asking me to check on the victim. And my main priority was trying to locate any type of threat.
And what did you do in an attempt to locate any type of threat?
After directing her to try and get back from the victim's house, me and another deputy approached the front door prior to entry. We made a decision to go back to the car to get my shield. While we were running back to my car with the shield, I was directed to Detective Murphy, who had a subject at gunpoint. So I directed my attention to him. Me and Deputy Croft assisted with that.
When you say you went back to get your shield, could you tell the jury what that means?
We have a bullet-resistant shield in the car. And in any type of instance where gunshots are fired or somebody's on a pistol or whatnot, some of us have a shield to be able to either do tactical entries or assist us with situations like that.
Now, did you end up going into the victim's residence to clear it?
I did.
Could you tell the jury what you observed when you walked in the house?
As soon as I walked through the victim's house, I was in the great room. I saw in the middle of the great room there was a projectile, and nearby there was a spent shell casing.
Now, let me interrupt you real quick. When you say projectile, could you tell the jury what you mean by that term?
Bullet.
And when you say shell casing, could you describe to the jury what that is?
It's the casing that is used to fire a bullet.
The part that stays in the gun after the bullet is fired, or sometimes ejected if it goes after the gun. Okay, go ahead.
The first room we cleared was the main great room. I saw blood behind a makeshift bar. And shortly after that, we started to clear the rooms. I didn't see anybody else in the house. I was looking for people or threats. And we backed out of the house after that and didn't make entry again.
And did you recall if you saw any dogs in the residence?
I remember seeing a dog, but it was hiding or trying to hide, if I remember correctly.
And then once you cleared the victim's residence, what did you do next?
After we had the subject on the ground, we cleared the residence neighboring victims. We thought that since the person came out, he was telling Detective Murphy, I was relaying the information, and we told that was the shooter. So we didn't know if he lived there or not. So we cleared the suspect's house.
And when you cleared that residence, you saw the jury what you saw?
Upon entry, I saw a pistol on the ground directly in front of the doorway with blood on it, next to a pair of sandals. We made entry into the house and moved into the living room. We then went into the garage, made sure nobody was in there, nobody was on the ground. We didn't see any threats with the rest of the residents, and after that, we directly backed out and sealed it off.
Judge, just one moment, Judge.
All right?
Your Honor, may I approve what has been marked as part of the identification in State 7?
You may.
Could you tell us what this is?
It's the victim's residence, and it's the suspect's residence.
Is this an overhead aerial photograph of it?
Yes.
And is this a fair and accurate representation of how it appeared in January 2018?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time we would like to move this into State 7.
Any objection?
No.
It'll be admitted. State 7.
We talk about what's actually in the photo that is point of reference is the bottom photograph of State 7 that I'm holding up, a zoomed in photograph of what's I'm holding above it.
Yes.
Which for the record is State 1. Now, in this photograph, could you point to the jury when you arrived on scene where you saw the body lying? And when you say you went inside to clear the residence, could you point to where the front door of the victim's residence is? And on the house next door to the victim, could you point to where you entered that house? And did you observe the defendant lying on the ground outside of that house?
I did.
Could you point to where that was? Thank you.
You may.
Judge, we have no further questions for this witness at this
All
time.
right. Bench cross.
No, ma'am.
All right. Corporal, you may step down. Thank you, sir. I believe you will remain on standby. Feel free to leave the courthouse. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's now 12:12. By the corporate clock, we're going to take our lunch break at this time. Bailiff does have your electronic devices for you to take with you. If you'd like to move with us, we'll do this for you. You can say that every once in a while. I'll just remind you, no tweeting, texting, blogging. You know a lot more about the case now than you did before. So I'm just going to ask to remind you not to talk about the case. If you want to talk to your family, say you're still here and you're not going home till the end of the day, it's still going on, just don't talk about the facts of the case. You're free to go and leave the courthouse. I don't know what the rain situation is right now, but if you want to go out and have lunch outside the courthouse, that's fine. Just be back down in the jury pool room at 1:15. So that's a little bit over an hour, so you can get out and stretch your legs. Quick question, do I have any smokers? I have one. Okay, and that's fine, not a problem. It just helps me later on when we go into jury deliberations, okay? All right, you all are free to go, and we'll see you back down in the jury pool room at 1:15.
Jury's exiting here.
All right, anything we need to discuss before lunch? All right, see you all back at 1:15. We'll be out till 1:15.